as you can see, we don't believe in ties on this show, so we had to kick somebody out. Unfortunately, Matthew had something going on today, so just going to be the three of us, and we're going to be here to break down Week 4 and look forward to Week 5. This is the Snap Count Show. Hello, everybody. This is the Snap Count Show. I am your host this evening, Ed Smith, and with me tonight we have David Street.
What's up, guys?
And we have Thaddeus Lloyd.
Heyo.
Guys, it was a Week 4 that was just kind of bouncing all over the place. We had quarterbacks make their first NFL start and win. We had resurgence of a power. We had just the kookiest Sunday night game that I can remember in a long time. I mean, it's just wild out there week by week in the NFL, and that's what we're here to do. We're going to break it down for you as best we can. And guys, to really encapsulate this last week in Week 4, I don't want to spend so much on it that we are taking up everybody's time looking at the same stuff that we already know. But can you give me a phrase, David, that really encapsulate last week for you?
I think for me, it's a phrase that's a question, and that is, what was that? And I am referring to the Packers Cowboys game, right? Because Matt LaFleur had the opportunity to go for it on fourth down, but his actions showed us that he wanted to go for the tie. It's like the dude was dead tired, and he was just like, screw this, I want to go home, let's just go for the tie.
Yeah, it's like a 17-hour drive to get from Dallas, Texas to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Can you imagine taking that drive on Monday morning after driving all that way to see not a win and not a loss to your most heated rival that's not within your division? That
Right.
is an insane idea in my mind, as far as what the NFL has done with the overtime rules. I thought it was weird coming down to 10 minutes from 15. They made those adjustments as far as, the coin flip overtime. And we have what we witnessed, the worst case scenario this past Sunday night. But moving on from that, Thaddeus, can you turn a phrase for me?
Give you a phrase. A normal NFL Sunday. We saw everything. Okay, it's any given Sunday is the most common phrase, and this felt actually like a normal Sunday because there was such weird things. And if there's weird things, yeah, that's your normal NFL Sunday. We had a couple blowouts, we had a couple upsets, and we had a couple of close games that should not have been. Raiders Bears. That was a really weird game too. But yeah, just another weird NFL normal Sunday. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Bears Raiders game. You see Kansas City just wake up, I guess is the term that could certainly be used, and that's really going to be my phrase. It's wake up, because we woke up early to watch the Vikings over in Dublin. We we woke up and saw Jackson Dart win his first start in the NFL against a Chargers team that we didn't think had any shot of losing that game against the Giants. And then the Chiefs wake up in the afternoon. Then you got the Sunday night game, which everybody woke up to what a terrible idea that that we've already discussed, the overtime timing rules are concerned. Uh, and then we woke up uh, early, late on Tuesday after watching two Monday night games. There's just so much to see. You can't sleep on any of it, so you have to wake up and really be focused on really just everything. That's part of the reason why I have Red Zone, because it helps me not miss anything. Yes, the commercials are a bit of annoyance, but is if anybody has watched 10 minutes of the Major League Baseball playoffs, you've seen about 20 commercials. It's whether the game's on or not. That's just how that works. So, but with so much drama, so much uh, just kookiness, so much imbalance of what we think is going to happen versus what actually happens, uh, we get to a segment that we have dubbed the Idiot of the Week. And we've had some debate about this. There were a few different candidates for that this week, and not to belabor the point, my my idea was the NFL Rules Committee for not fixing the overtime situation before we wind up with that hot mess of a garbage dump. Uh, David, do you have somebody that would take that prize home for you?
Well, I already mentioned him, but that would be Matt LaFleur because it's one thing if a game ends in a tie, and the coach had the right move, but it just didn't work out. But as I said before, it really seemed like Matt LaFleur purposely went for the tie. And how do I know this? Because he had the opportunity to go for a fourth down and he didn't. And then also, something a little fun. You may recall, I picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl. Well, fun fact, or I guess rather not so fun fact, no team has ever won the Super Bowl with a tie in its season. I don't think a team has ever even made the Super Bowl with a tie. So if that happens for the Packers, they would be the first such team to do it. But they definitely have a bit of a steep hill to climb in that regard.
Well, I would actually have a little bit of pushback on that one, and just for argument's sake, because gaining a half game is better than losing a whole game. So when we get down to the end of the season and we're positioning for playoffs, we're looking at more scenarios coming into play. So I kind of understand the why Matt LaFleur would do that, but also keep in mind the momentum in that building was all for Dallas. So to escape out of that, which should have been an easy win, according to everybody, including everybody in this show, that having all that momentum on the Cowboys sideline, that they were going to be able to come back and beat the Packers, it's better to get out of there with a tie than a loss, in my opinion. But
That's fair.
that's kind of where I go with that. Thaddeus, did you have an idiot that you wanted to nominate?
Yeah, so obviously everyone's favorite idiot was Adonai Mitchell, and he was rightly done for it because if you remember last year,
Oh, you're
Jonathan
killing me.
Taylor did the same thing. He celebrated, pushed the ball out before he reached the goal line, and it was a touchback. And that's what ultimately cost the Colts the game. I'm going to highlight a player though that ultimately didn't cost them the game, but who was very stupid on his own part, and that was the Seahawks offensive lineman Anthony Bradford. Now we don't talk about offensive linemen a lot, but if you go back and look at the tape he did versus the Cardinals, he is probably the worst and funniest offensive lineman because instead of actually setting back and blocking, he'll just go right at you and dive for your knees, basically, or not have no clue what's going on during the play. I'm still surprised the Seahawks won that game with one absolute terrible offensive lineman. Probably tells you how good the rest of that offensive line is. But yeah, I just go suggesting look back at Anthony Bradford's tape from the game last Thursday.
Yeah, and I saw some of the statistics that on his charting for that game, and it said that he did 60% of his blocking was in double team because he could not block anybody on his own.
Oh my gosh.
That he has the highest rate of double team blocks in the NFL because he can't block a toddler from getting through a gate. It's it is ridiculous the the way that guy is playing right now. But moving forward, hope he plays better this week, and we'll get to him here in just a little bit. Looking at week 5, we have such an interesting slate coming up, but there's really only a few games that we wanted to highlight this time, and we're going to do something a little different. Typically, we've been going by time frame, uh, the kickoff time and whatnot. But let's go East Coast to West Coast. And David, I'm going to start with you with the Chiefs at Jags. What are you expecting in this game?
I think it could potentially be a shootout. I want to talk about the Jags here. I don't remember what my team prediction was for them. I don't think it was good, but I do remember saying that I don't really have any faith in Trevor Lawrence, and I think for the most part I was correct on that part. Not saying Trevor Lawrence has been bad, but Trevor Lawrence is certainly not the reason why the Jags are off to a surprisingly good start. And I think something that maybe all of us should have seen coming based on Liam Cohen's track record is this. So we can all see that Travis Etienne is certainly having a career year. He's on pace to have by far his best pro numbers ever. And you notice there's that there is a familiar trend here with Liam Cohen. When Liam Cohen was the Bucks offensive coordinator last year, rookie Bucky Irving, running back, had a great year, and before Cohen came back to the pros as our offensive coordinator, he was the offensive coordinator for the Kentucky Wildcats, and when he was there in 2023, who was Kentucky's running back? It was Ray Davis, the guy who sliced up my Florida Gators for I think 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, something like that. So we noticed that there is a pattern here where Liam Cohen led offenses are great for individual running backs, and we're seeing the exact same thing here with Travis Etienne. And I think after the Jags beat the 49ers, and the Niners themselves are having a solid bounce back year, I think it is safe to say at this point the Jags might be for real, although I might need to pump the brakes there a little bit. And then as for the Chiefs, I think we have to ask, is Patrick Mahomes back? Because he got off to a very slow start his first 3 games, but then against the Ravens, a very popular Super Bowl pick, he tears them apart for 4 touchdown passes. Now the Ravens are 1-3, and so we're at a point now where you have to ask, well, okay, does it really matter that he had a great game against the Ravens? Because the Ravens themselves aren't doing too hot. But I think we have an interesting matchup here. I think we are potentially going to see a shootout, and that's exactly what I'm going to go with. But as for who I think is going to win, give me the Jags. I think the Chiefs are going to slide back to under 500, and I think the Jags continue their surprising start. So I'm going to go with the Jags over the Chiefs, 33-30.
Thaddeus?
That's a bit surprising, David, but that's what you're known for on the show, I think now. um, but yeah, this is an interesting game. The Jags obviously beat my 49ers last week, although it was pretty sloppy because the Jags won the turnover battle 4-0 and still only won by 5. So I really think Trevor Lawrence is a bottom tier starting quarterback right now. Etienne's having a great year, and Liam Cohen's trying all he can to do good for this Jaguars offense, but it's it's not looking great for Trevor Lawrence. Um, you asked the question earlier if you think the Jags are legit. I think the Jags defense is legit. They forced more turnovers in 4 games than they had all of last year. So that's already a big positive for them. This defense looks just really good. So it could limit this Chiefs offense, which looked really good against a really bad Ravens defense though last week. But on the flip side of that, look at the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes finally at least gets at least a number 2 option, okay, a receiver, not even a number 1, and he puts up 4 touchdowns, right? So if the Chiefs can get like 1 or 2 more healthy receivers, this offense could look really deadly. So with that in mind, I just don't think the one thing Spagnolo is really good at is taking away your biggest strength and forcing you to play your biggest weakness. And the weakness on the Jaguars offense right now is Trevor Lawrence. And so I believe Spags is going to cook up a defensive plan to try to make Trevor Lawrence throw the ball a lot. And I don't trust him right now. He just hasn't shown it. So give me the Chiefs in this one. Chiefs are going to have less offensive output than against the Ravens because the Ravens have actually been one of the worst defenses in the league. The Jaguars defense, I think, is better right now than the Ravens defense, to be honest. But give me the Chiefs in this one, 23-14.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, the Jags defense is the best um, as the best interception turnover per game rate in the NFL right now, as well as uh, opposing uh, passer rating. They are the best in the league at this point. So, is the receiving prowess that we saw against the Ravens going to continue against the Jags defense? I don't think so, because you're you had receivers coming out of the woodwork coming out for Patrick Mahomes during that game. Is it a letdown because it's not the Ravens and the Chiefs, it's the Jags and the Chiefs? Is it a letdown for the Kansas City offense going into Jacksonville? I think there could be some of that, on top of the fact that the Jags defense is legit, especially their pass defense. They're middle of the pack as far as yards per game, but when you take a look at more of the specific statistical categories, they're really good. And over the past year and a half, we've seen Patrick Mahomes struggle when he can't get any of his wide receivers to catch the ball. And that's exactly what the Jaguars have been able to keep the opposing team from doing, is catch the ball down the field. So we're going to see a lot more of that short dink and dunk stuff again out of the Kansas City offense. But the flip side of it is that you've talked about is also true. Trevor Lawrence is not a top tier quarterback. He is not somebody that can see over a Spagnolo defense the way that like a Lamar could, and Spags shut him down. So I'm still going to take the Chiefs, more so because of quarterback and head coach. It's because at least Andy Reid can say Duval correctly versus Duval. So give me the Chiefs. I think it's going to be much lower scoring than what a lot of people would anticipate. I'm going to put this game at about 19-13. It's going to be more of a defensive slugfest than any offense actually getting on track with this one.
Yeah, and then last thing is David also sent in his picks before we started, and he took the Chiefs in this one.
You mean Matthew?
Matthew.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't believe in ties while we're doing this
No.
show, but
Yeah.
we'll let Matthew think that he's got some play on his picks. So, moving on. Next, we have the Broncos at Eagles. This seems like a very interesting matchup. Thaddeus, what are we supposed to be looking for in it?
Well, here's the thing: the Eagles are a very frustrating team this year because we know they probably have the best roster in the NFL. They're still pretty healthy, but they're only winning these games by less than double digits when they should be crushing them, right? I believe they've won their last two games by 10 points total. This is kind of like what the Chiefs did last year, where they won a bunch of games by, 2 points every single game. So it's kind of feeling like the Chiefs of last year. When we know this offense can be extra special, but for some reason, just the offensive coordinator, they've really only had like a couple explosive halves through the first four games. Now you're going up against a Broncos defense, which was touted as one of the best in the NFL in the preseason. Couple weeks in, first 3 weeks, it was not looking good, getting torched by Daniel Jones, and other things. And it didn't look good, but then they had the good game Monday night against the Bengals. Now the Bengals, Jake Browning, man, it's not going to cut it. So they completely dominated that game. So maybe this defense is starting to come together. Sean Payton has never really done well in September, so maybe the Broncos will be on the rise for this one. But for some reason, the Eagles are they're going to give you a lead or they're going to be behind or in a close game, and then they're just going to shut you out because they just have that talent. So they're 4-0. It's going to be really tough because this Broncos defense is really, really good. If they can get to the potential that they had, like it was shown on Monday, shutting the Bengals out for 3 quarters basically. So it's going to be a really tough contest. As far as prediction goes, I kind of feel like the Eagles are the Chiefs of last year. They're kind of inevitable. They're just going to pull a win right out of their butt, no matter what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think it'll probably be a low scoring game. The Eagles defense is also really good. Bo Nix looked good, but it was the Bengals defense. So who knows on that front? But give me the Eagles in this one, 16-10.
David?
Yeah, I do agree with Thaddeus that the Eagles are definitely kind of like the Chiefs of last year. Although with the Eagles this year, it's kind of funny because I think if you watch their games, in most cases, it's like the Eagles take a decent lead, and then they allow the other team to come back. Like they do just enough to get to a comfortable lead, so that way even when the other team scores, the Eagles are still comfortable. Like against the Bucks, they took a massive halftime lead against the Bucks, but then the Bucks destroyed them in the second half. But it didn't matter because the Eagles were so far ahead in the first half that anything we did in the second half really didn't matter at all. And then as for the Broncos, I mean, I I said in a previous show that I didn't really know what to make of the Broncos, and I still don't really know what to make of the Broncos. Bad, you mentioned them beating the Bengals, but the Bengals don't even have Joe Burrow now. They've got Jake Browning, so who cares, really? Um, but yeah, as far as the score prediction goes, I mean, I'm gonna go with the Eagles. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pick Jake Browning. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. And I think finally, for the first time this season, I think the Eagles will build a big lead, and I think they will actually hold on to that big lead. So I'm gonna take them over the Bengals, 30-11.
Yeah, and when we see the maturation of Bo Nix into NFL, because Lord knows he was old enough in college, uh, as we see him mature into the NFL, this is a type of statement game that he needs to have. He needs to have one of these games to say that we are here and we're not going anywhere. That game against Indianapolis that they lost at the end of regulation, that was a game in which they were making a statement, but they let Indianapolis kind of hang around and not put them away. And, we saw what happened with the leverage of destruction. So when we look at this game here, traveling to Philadelphia, this is going to be a national game as far as the national default game on our television screens. This is a game that everybody, I think, will be able to see if no, Bo Nix has the moxie against a roster like the Eagles to move forward and be the guy that everybody looks at the AFC West and go, "Oh goodness gracious, we have the Broncos on our schedule." That is going to be an issue moving forward. Now, as far as the Eagles are concerned, we watch them every week. We saw him really get up on Tampa last week. We saw him, basically kind of trade blows against Dallas in the first week without Jalen Carter. But it's one of those things where, do we actually know what Philadelphia's offense is this year? Last year, it was, we're going to pound you in the running game until you submit, and we're going to score by using our wide receivers. And if there's even the slightest chance that it's a short yardage situation, we're going to see the tush push. Well, we're still seeing the last part of that, but are we really seeing a true identity of offense from the Eagles right now? I don't necessarily know if I do. Because one week they're trying to get A.J. Brown the ball so he stops whining, and Devontae Smith the ball so he can feel like he's the number one receiver that he should be. And then you have Saquon, which everybody is really focusing in on after the way that that offense operated last year. What kind of offense are we really looking at? And when we have such a smattering of ideas, that's when it becomes non congruent. And a team like the Broncos that has a good defense and a hungry offense, can they go into Philadelphia and pull off the win? I say no. Uh, it is going to be probably a field goal game. In my opinion, we'll probably see 27-24 for the Eagles, because the Eagles will score some points, but they will bleed the clock enough to where they can get out of that game with yet another victory.
Uh,
And David?
yeah, I'm sorry. Hang on. I just realized that I made a massive mistake when I picked the Eagles over the Bengals, because I was literally just talking about the Bengals, and they were immediately on my mind, and so that's why I mean, in a hypothetical scenario, yeah, I would definitely take the Eagles over the Bengals. So let me just correct the record here. I'm still going to take the Eagles, but in a much closer game. It'll be another single digit win for the Eagles, and in that case, I'll take them 20 to 13 over the Broncos. Again, my apologies. Like I said, I was just done talking about the Bengals, so they were immediately on my mind.
Well, we all make mistakes, just like the referees in the Cowboys Packers game that couldn't call a holding on the Dallas offensive line to save their lives. I don't I don't know. Let's not you know hash old wounds to this Packer fan. Uh, you know, and then as we move across the country, we're going to go to the other coast to go ahead and preview the Commanders and Chargers, which I'm still having a hard time calling them the Commanders, because even their uniforms are starting to look like the Redskins. So it's really all coming down to it as far as that's concerned. Now, this is a game in which the Commanders are getting Jaden Daniels back. He's a running quarterback, though. How jumpy is he going to be? How explosive is he going to be jumping and having that same 13% scramble rate when he's coming back from a leg injury? How effective is he going to be in the running game that opens up the additional passing lanes that they've been using to get down the field? That is my question for this, because we're also looking at a Chargers team that is really upset about be, giving up that win against a rookie quarterback. John Harbaugh, he's that had to be one of the longest flights home. Uh, letting a rookie beat you in that scenario. I The Chargers kind of ran out of time I, in that last 2 minute drill, and that's just the way that it goes. But Justin Herbert has been less than stellar the past 2 weeks, and is he going to continue that trend? Dan Quinn's defense is good enough to create some fits for a good quarterback like Justin Herbert, but getting back home, sleeping in his own bed, I think the Chargers do play better than they did in New York. And the fact that the Commanders were on the road last week, go home, and then they're across the country, I think that we'll have some lag for that team going into this game. I know it's an entire week and it's not supposed to matter, but it does matter to some extent when you're spending an entire day for travel and not able to have any walkthroughs or practices because you are spending that time just trying to get set up and settled in. So there are some things about that that I've always looked at since I was a kid. Uh, when we were talking about how the schedule really plays at a disadvantage for some for some teams. Now, one of the nice things for Jaden Daniels on offense, though, is the fact that he does have uh, four rushers. There are four people on that roster that have 18 or more carries. So they are really leaning on that run game to jumpstart everything. Unfortunately, one of those four is Jaden Daniels. So you kind of take him out of the equation because he's, once again, how effective he going to be? How many design quarterback runs are they going to have in a early regular season matchup? If this was a playoffs, it wouldn't matter. But you're trying to get Jaden Daniels to the end of the season. So you're probably not going to have all those design runs like you normally would have in the game plan. So that is going to force the Commanders, I almost said it again, force the Commanders to throw the ball more, but also use their Swiss Army knife. They've got Debo Samuel, and he has been playing very well over the first month of the season. So with Debo Samuel really taking up the slack, I do think that the Commanders will be able to put up a fight. But in the end, I think Harbaugh and crew are going to have this game. Right now, the spread is a field goal spread between the two, with the over under being about 48 and a half. So this is begging for it to be a 31 to 27 game to hit the over. I'm going to say it's going to be a little bit under simply because Justin Herbert struggles right now. Jaden Daniel is not at 100%. So I'm going to call this game a field goal game. It's going to be 24-21, but I'm taking the Chargers in this. Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. The one thing for me though is obviously he's coming back from injury. The Chargers had a bad loss against the Giants. Chargers, I don't know. I believe Joe Alt is still out.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that's gonna not be good. But fortunately for the Chargers, they're playing the Commanders defense, which isn't that great. And the one thing I look at was Terry McLaurin was questionable entering the week. He is now out for this game. So, I mean, they got Debo, who's been good this year for them on kick returns and other stuff. But I really think with both teams coming off of a loss, I really think Harbaugh's going to have the better of Quinn in this one because that's just the coach who Harbaugh is. It'll be another lower scoring game because of the injuries on both offenses. But yeah, just give me the Chargers in this one, 20-13. I just don't think Jaden Daniels without Terry McLaurin can overcome this Chargers defense, which will look to bounce back after a rough week against Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and expand on your point about the Commanders' defense, they made Michael Penix Jr. look like he was top flight quarterback last week. So
Yeah,
you
after getting shut out by the Panthers, I mean, they had a bounce back game, but yeah, it's not looking good for the Commanders' defense.
and the other part about that was Bijan Robinson was able to get going as the do everything back for the Falcons against that Commanders defense. Well, guess what? The Chargers have Omari and Hampton. He's taking that type of role. He's not as good as Bijan at this point, but I stand by that point overall. David,
So I'm a staunch traditionalist, so I'm going to call them the Redskins. I respect y'all's rights to call them the Commanders because they are the Commanders, but I'm going to stick with tradition here. So you're telling me that Jaden Daniels is back, but obviously he is going to experience a little bit of rust. The Redskins have to travel all the way from Landover, Maryland to Los Angeles, California to face off against a Chargers team that had no business losing to the Giants with their rookie quarterback. Although funny enough, I did actually pick the Giants to have a winning record, and that was precisely because I thought that Jackson Dart would have a good year because I knew he was going to start eventually, but I digress. Anyway, the point is the Redskins have to face off against a pissed off Chargers team. I agree that the Chargers are going to win, but guys, I don't think this game is going to be particularly close. I'm going to take the Chargers 43 to 23. I think it's I think it's going to be bad for the Redskins.
are you anticipating uh, just a breakout game for Justin Herbert, or is it going to be based upon the offensive line to start running up the score on the Redskins defense?
I would say more so the former, but for me it just really comes down to the fact that we know that Jaden Daniels is going to be rusty. He's not going to be 100%. So I think it'll be more so the Redskins making a bunch of mistakes that the Chargers will capitalize on.
Okay. Uh, all right. And Thaddeus, just to kind of uh, go back to what you were saying before about Jane Daniels' rust factor, uh, because of how fast he typically plays, is that what is mostly going to throw off the timing, or is it going to be Derwin James being able to catch him?
It might be Derwin James probably. Obviously, he's one of the best safeties in the NFL. But overall, this Chargers defense just plays really fast and really physical in general. So I know Jaden Daniels, like first year, he was reading defenses. He was doing it really fast. But it's really up to the matchup isn't the passing attack, but the Commanders' rushing attack against this Chargers defense. So it's really going to be a matchup of the run D versus the offensive rushing attack.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
see if Jaden Daniels can get over 50 yards rushing, basically. So that'll be the key matchup to watch in that game.
Sure. Sure. Okay. So we're all in agreement on the Chargers uh, on this game as well. What did Matthew have? That is what did
He was the only one to have the Commanders. Actually, he took the Commanders.
no ties. No ties.
No ties. Yeah.
No ties, because we don't believe in ties.
We don't believe in ties.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last game we want to preview, we want to do this a little bit differently. We are going to be taking a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers flying as far as humanly possible from Tampa to play in Seattle and play the Seahawks and a battle of 3-1, 3-1 teams heading into this week. As the visiting team, David, you have the floor.
Well, I think at this point, I think we kind of have a good idea of who the Bucks are. In my opinion, I think they are an average team that's being carried by a great quarterback. Certainly, Baker Mayfield, I think, is having a great year so far. When you look at the games that we've been in and the leads we've blown, but he's been able to he was able to come up clutch for 3 straight games. Couldn't do it against the Eagles, but that's the defending champion. So you know no big deal, no big deal there. Um, I thought we had a resilient near comeback against the Eagles because, as I said before, we totally destroyed the Eagles in the second half, but we were behind so much in the first half that anything we did in the second half, really didn't matter. Really didn't matter anymore. Um, I am definitely a little concerned about our matchup against the Seahawks, and obviously Thad will get into the Seahawks side more. But I will just say that I think the Seahawks, I think Sam Darnold's been having a great year, just like he did last year. I think the Seahawks have been looking really good, and the fact that we have to travel all the way to face them in their stadium, and it's very well known how loud the Seahawks football stadium gets. Um, I don't want to pick. I don't want to pick us to lose, but I have to be. I have to be objective here. You know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for the reverse jinx here. Okay. I'm gonna pick the Bucks to lose for the second week in a row, and give me the Seahawks over the Bucks, 26-25.
Thaddeus, since you are a resident Northwesterner, what say you on the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, the Seahawks, after losing to my 49ers, have done really well. The defense under head
Mike,
coach
Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald, yeah, has done phenomenal. However, one thing that would give me pause. Okay, I'll get into it actually after I talk about the Seahawks themselves. The Seahawks offense, Sam Darnold. Everyone thought the Seahawks were going to be the worst team in the division. They're not. It's the Cardinals. Which is really saying something because this defense, the entire division right now, none of them have losing records. So there's something for that to be said. But Sam Darnold is looking really comfortable with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Their tight end is also looking really good as well. Kenneth Walker is finally getting going as well because that's the whole purpose of the offense run by their offensive coordinator. I just forgot his name. But they're looking to be a run first team and then throwing, and it works really well with Sam Darnold. Now we thought the receivers would be hard, but just Jackson Smith and Jigba coming out as a number one receiver definitely this time has worked really well. And then the defense, like I said, they're coming together. They're playing really good ball. They got better as the season went on last year. So they're looking like a top 10 unit. However, as far as predictions for this game goes, it is in Seattle. It's going to be hard for Tampa Bay. But the thing is the Seahawks defense looks really good, like I said. However, what happened last week concerns me. The Seahawks were up by 2, 3 scores entering the latter part of the third quarter and almost blew that game. And the Cardinals, they're up and down, but they almost blew a game to the Cardinals, which, if it wasn't for a crazy pass toward the end of the game, gone to overtime, who knows what would have happened. So, and you're going against Baker Mayfield, who's, first 3 weeks led comebacks. So it might happen again. If the Seahawks don't tighten up that defense, the comeback might happen again. So, and I honestly, despite all the stats and whatever, I'm going to lean toward the Bucks here. Obviously, Baker Mayfield almost came back against the Eagles as well. It was just he had a back-breaking interception in the red zone with like 6 minutes left, which really killed him because they could have come back on the Eagles too. So I think I just think Baker's inevitable for the most part. So give me the Buccaneers in this one, 19-16 in a really weird scoring game.
Yeah, the other just one last thing I will add, but I just noticed how brutal of a stretch the Bucks have. Actually, starting with the Eagles, and then we got to play the Seahawks, and then the 49ers, and then a couple of other like really tough teams. Just wanted to add that in there. Ed, you're muted.
When we're looking at the Buccaneers and how they've done so far, the Seahawks almost blowing that lead against Kyler Murray, I would put Baker light years ahead of Kyler Murray as an NFL quarterback at this point. So if we're talking about the same situation, the Bucks win that game. That's that's exactly how that's going to go. The issue that I have in it is the fact that your boy Mike Evans, they are winless when he is not in, and he's going to be out another week with that hamstring problem. As much uh, as I, how to pronounce his name always escapes me, Ibuka. Um, as much as he has really stepped up and tried to fill the role of being Mike Evans, he's not Mike Evans. But the other part is having both of them on the field makes such a matchup nightmare for defenses that it's difficult. You can't cover both and then stop the stop Baker from scrambling or the running game with it's Bucky, right? Uh,
Bucky, yeah.
yeah. So that is where I think Seattle has a little bit easier time than they would if Mike Evans would uh, be suiting out for this game. In the end, though, I I still don't believe in the Seahawks. I still don't believe in Sam Darnold. I still don't believe that they rightfully should have a 3-1 record uh, because the Seahawks are they've been kind of duct taping this season together so far, in my opinion. And Tampa Bay has really shown the resolve of a winning football franchise by having the three comebacks with Baker Mayfield almost coming back, which they were left for dead at halftime against the Eagles. That I don't think anybody believed that it would be even be a game by the fourth quarter, but yet, like you said, Thaddeus, it was that interception with about 6 minutes left that really killed them.
Yeah.
So that's where that kind of sits. Now, as far as the game odds are concerned, uh, they're expecting it to be about a 45.5 point game. The spread is 3.5. With that being said, I am taking the Buccaneers on the road plus 3.5, and I'm taking them on the under to be 21-18. Uh, just because, like you said, it's going to be a weird scoring game, but somehow it's going to wind up being, uh, you know, almost field goal scoring type scenario. Because you're right, it's tough to play in Seattle because you can't hear a thing. You can't hear your inner thoughts in that stadium. It is so loud. So I've got 21-18, and and that puts the Buccaneers still in the driver's seat for the NFC South. Uh, so, how quickly, David, do you think if the Buccaneers can win this game, they can salt away this division?
Well, I was looking at their. I was actually looking at the Bucks schedule earlier today, and well, my quickest answer for now, I would say, is that I think we would put it away easily. But if we look at the schedule, so after the Seahawks, we've got the 49ers, and then we've got the Lions. So that's with the Eagles game already being played, that's a very tough four game stretch, and there is the potential to potentially lose all four of these games. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. Um, but I'm just highlighting how tough the schedule is. But then after that, you've got the Saints, and the Saints are terrible this year. Patriots are, well, they're better than last year, but they're not that great either. But anyway, point being is that after that stretch, our schedule does get a little bit easier. So I think even if we do lose this Sunday, no matter what, I'm still going to take us to win the division. That's not me that's not me being biased. Maybe it is a little bit, but Baker Mayfield. Okay, yeah, it is a little bit, but Baker Mayfield is by far the best quarterback in the division. I mean, you tell me what quarterback in that division is even close to Baker Mayfield at this point. Spencer Rattler, no. Penix, no.
No, he's still
Uh,
growing.
yeah, fair enough. And then Bryce Young, yeah, no.
No.
So yeah,
I quite honestly, David, I would venture to say the Bucks have a decent chance of going 2-2 in this 4-game stretch. And if they do that, you'll probably be locking up this division round week 12.
I
Week
would agree with
week
I would
12,
agree with
week
that.
13.
Yeah.
So that being said, uh,
Okay.
Thaddeus, when we're looking ahead for the Seahawks, how badly do they need this game to you know, maintain the NFC West with everything going on around them?
Well, it's not like a must win because they still have 3 wins. And even if they lose, they'll be second, third in the division still. Also depends on who wins tonight, 49ers or Rams. So it's not like a must win, but it would be very helpful for them to stay in the competitive for top of the division, because both the Niners and Rams are at 3-1. They're at 3-1. So it's going to be an important game for the race, and things are starting to pick up. As I like to say, after the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, that's when we see teams, show their true selves, like show who they really are, because number one, they get into gear, and then number two, injuries happen, and it's more a cohesion of things that come together, and we're like, okay, this team is going to be this after the first 4 weeks. That's what I've seen watching the NFL the past 5-10 years. So we're going to see what these teams really are after the first 4 weeks. So it's going to be, this game specifically for the Seahawks is important for them, but only for the beginning season. Now, if the division will come down to a couple games or two like it used to back in the 2010s, then yeah, this is definitely an important game. But as of now, it's all right if they lose. They'll still be second or third in the division. They still have a really good team. So yeah, that's my perspective on it.
Okay. Yeah. And, you know, it is still, we're still not even to the quarter point of the season yet. So that's, when we're looking at a matchup like this, it's a massive deal when they're both at the record that they're at. But looking ahead, how does what they've done so far translate to future success? So, speaking of successes and failures, that is what is our prediction record so far?
Yeah, so we we all picked the Packers. Now it was a tie game, so we're just gonna shove that off to the side because nobody won and nobody lost. Um, so we're not gonna count that game. Um, so last week, Matt, Ed, and David. Actually, no, Matt and Ed went 2-1, and I yeah, I went 1-2, and I believe David might have gone 0-3 or 1-2. But that means Matt and I are now tied at 8 wins, 5 losses. Ed is in third place at 6-7, and David is at the bottom at 3-10.
It's almost like the Buccaneers of the '70s.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Well, the good news is that means I'll get first overall pick.
there you go.
yeah.
Yes.
Just keep stacking them. Just keep
Take your
stacking.
wins when you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah, exactly.
maybe you'll get Leroy Selman somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. And
Well,
by the way,
go ahead.
just gonna say real quick, this is very off topic, but since it's you and me, Ed, your college football team is probably going to destroy my football team this Saturday. But we'll make up for it by wrecking your pathetic basketball team later in the basketball season.
Well,
Just want to throw that out there.
you are a basketball school at this point, so
Hey, national champions, baby! I'll take it. I'll take it.
absolutely. Well, hey, that's all the fun that we have for this week, everybody. So we appreciate you stopping by. Give us your predictions in the comments. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. It really helps the algorithm. And uh, until next week, maybe we'll have Matthew, maybe we won't, but we certainly will not be tied. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, guys.